Hello, my wonderful and lovely humans. So today we are going to be talking about cell replication. We're going to do a quick overview. We're going to talk about the two very important phases that are involved in this process of the cell cycle. So by this point, we hopefully would have already done the cell cycle notes. So if you need to go back, watch that video, get those notes down, okay? Because this isn't going to make a whole lot of sense if you haven't already done it, okay? So let's go ahead and get into it. Let me flip my screen so you guys can see what the heck I'm even doing. Alrighty. So cell replication. Well, cell replication is going to be able to be split up into two parts, right? And if we split those two parts up, they are going to make up the cell cycle. And those two parts are going to be interphase and mitosis, okay? Interphase and mitosis make up the cell cycle. So let's talk about interphase first of all, okay? Let's go deep into it. So interphase is going to have about 3.5 stages total. So there are things that are going on in interphase, okay? Interphase is a time where our cells are preparing themselves to replicate, because if we are splitting our cells up, right? If we were not to do anything about that, we would just constantly be divided into half, into half, into half, into half. And eventually we would be basically reduced down to nothing, right? Well, we can't do that. Instead, we're going to have to grow a little bit, split, grow a little bit, split, right? So that's a little bit fast forwarded here because we're just talking about interphase and we're not splitting an interphase. Interphase has nothing to do with splitting the cell. It has everything to do with preparing the cell to split, okay? So in interphase, lots of stuff going on. Our cells are shaking it up. They are just getting ready, right? Like think about a track runner at a track meet, getting prepared, right? Are you just like, are you lounging on a sofa? No, you need to warm up those cells. You're probably jumping around. You're probably like, I don't know, punching the air, something like that, right? You're getting yourself prepared to do a big job, right? And that is what our cell is doing during interphase. So let's talk about the stages of interphase, okay? So our first stage, which I call stage 0.5, because technically it may or may not happen. It does not always happen. So we're going to call that our half stage. So this is known as stage G0, and this stage is known for being at rest. So basically, when conditions are not optimal, the cell will go into the G0 or the rest stage. And that is because, think about it, if I'm a lion out in Africa and I don't catch my kill, I have now risked all of my energy. And what am I going to have to put my energy, the energy that I am left with, what am I going to have to concentrate that energy on? I'm going to have to go and catch a new meal, right? Because I cannot survive without energy. So clearly making new cells and maybe building new cells to replace wounds, right? That's not my primary goal here. So I'm going to shift away. Well, your body kind of just naturally does this. Your body shifts away the energy, all of that, from those non-life-threatening situations so that it can take care of what is going to potentially threaten life, okay? So, like I said, stage 0.5 is sometimes going to happen, but not always, okay? Only when conditions are not optimal does it go into the G0 phase, okay? So the rest of these stages are going to be done by all of the cells, okay? So let's talk about the first stage of interphase. The first stage of interphase is known as G1, and it's called G1 because it is the first growth phase. Yes, we're going to have more than one growth phase. We'll get into it. Okay, anyways, we have our first growth phase. So like I said, if we're splitting, right, we're always going to get smaller, and that is not helping us to replicate our cells. So instead, what we're doing first is we're going to start to grow, okay? Now, we're growing our cells, we're growing our organelles, and we are also going to be lengthening our DNA here, okay? And the reason we want to lengthen our DNA is because now we're going to have to synthesize new DNA. So we are going to be making new DNA. We're going to start to copy our new DNA. So now we have extra organelles that we've grown over here in the first stage, because like I said, we're going to get a little bit bigger before we get a little bit smaller. And over here, like I said, we are synthesizing some new DNA. We are making copies out of the DNA that has been provided to us by the OG cell, and we are copying it and making a new DNA strand, okay? So at this point, our DNA has unwound itself. It's typically really tight, right? But it is unwinding so that it can be replicated. In stage 3 of interphase, what's happening here? We're having our second growth phase, okay? Another G2, and G standing for growth, 2 standing for the second growth phase. So G2 is characterized by a little bit more growth because we, like I said, if we continuously divide, we just get smaller and smaller and smaller. So we're growing again, just to really make sure that when we do go ahead and break off into a new cell, both of our new cells are going to have plenty of whatever they need to survive and thrive and make new cells again, okay? All right, so if you guys need to, this would be a great time to pause the video. Alrighty, hopefully you guys have had enough time. If not, maybe go back and pause it again. Okay, but anyways, let's move on to this second stage over here, and this is mitosis. Now, like I said, in interphase, what we're doing here is we are preparing to divide. So things are happening in there. We're moving around a lot. Our DNA is shaking, and there's a lot of movement going on here. In mitosis, okay, there's 4 stages here. All right. Like I said, interphase, stuff's moving around. Mitosis, we are now going to be splitting. So what are we going to have to do? We are going to have to pause. Okay. So the first stage of mitosis is known as prophase. I like to think P for prophase or P for pause. Okay. And I'll show you why in a minute. We'll go over it here. Hold on. Let's go through this first. So P for prophase or P for pause, because now our DNA is going to stop moving around. It's going to condense itself, okay? It's going to shrivel up, and basically everything's kind of like pausing. It's getting ready to divide, okay? You can't divide well if everyone's moving around and things are going crazy, right? You need to slow things down so that we can make sure that we have the appropriate things going to the appropriate places, all right? Anyways, the second stage will be M for metaphase or M for middle, okay? Now, this I like to think of middle because what's going to happen is your DNA lines up along the middle of what is going to be your new cell, or of the original cell. So that way your DNA can be split evenly between the 2 cells, okay? Stage 3 of mitosis is known as A for anaphase. And again, I like to think of A for apart because now the DNA moves apart from each other. And the last phase that we will talk about is T for telophase or T for 2, because now we have 2 new cells. That's actually something that I like to think of whenever I think mitosis. I think 2 in my head, my 2 cis, okay? There's this other process called meiosis that we will talk about eventually, not right now. But in mitosis, we create 2 cells. In meiosis, we create 4. So meiosis is a lot harder to remember with the 4 thing, right? But if you think mitosis, I don't know, it just works for me, okay? You guys know how I am. I use tips and tricks, right? Okay, well, I am gonna pause my video. Well, actually, no, I'm not gonna pause my video. I'm gonna flip my screen because I want you guys to see something, okay? All right, so as I was saying, there's 4 stages of mitosis. Well, this is where I get to teach you my mitosis hand dance. I don't really have a better name for it. If you guys can think of one, let me know, because I would love to like have like a whole like a thing. I want it to be a thing, okay? All right, but anyways, so let's talk about mitosis. This is how I remember it. I promise you, like, there will be people like doing this in the middle of an exam. You do it. Do what you have to do to learn it. I promise you it is worth it, okay? But anyways, mitosis, right? How many cells are we making? We're making 2 new cells, okay? So mitosis, let's talk about what's happening. Starting with interphase. Remember, interphase and mitosis are not the same thing. They are separate, Okay. So in interface, things are moving around. The cell stuff is moving around. Okay. We have spirit fingers. I don't really have a good name that like works with the letters, unfortunately, for interface, but things are moving around. Okay. Now, remember our first stage in mitosis. Once we enter into mitosis, we are ready to now divide. So in mitosis, we are going to P for pause. We're going to pause our moving DNA. Okay. And what we are going to do is we are going to condense. All right. So we're going to condense down, and I want to make sure that I'm condensing all of like as much as possible in my hands, right? Okay. So here I am all nice and taut, all nice and taut and wound up. Okay. Now next stage of mitosis is M for metaphase, because what happens? Well, we are going to line up in the middle. So that's what we do here. And actually, this is pretty similar to what the cell kind of looks like when it's dividing. You guys will see an example. But anyways, it's going to line up here in the middle. So I have my fingers kind of lined up here in the middle, okay? So M for middle, okay? And then we go into our third phase. That's A for anaphase, and A for anaphase or A for apart, because now my DNA is moving apart, okay? It's starting to create two new halves, all right? And then we go into our last stage, which is T for telophase or T for 2, because now we have two new cells that go back to interphase. You guys see how that works? Okay, like y'all are gonna think it's dorky. I'm still gonna make you do it. Deal with it. Y'all know that if I have to embarrass myself, so do you. And I enjoy it. I genuinely do. Evil enough, remember? Okay, but anyways, all right. So now that you guys have learned the mitosis hand dance, let's just run through it again, okay? So remember, the way to remember the stages of mitosis is PMAT, right? We start with P for prophase or P for pause, because we're gonna pause our DNA. We're going to condense it, and then we're going to move to the middle of our cell, and we're going to go through M for metaphase or M for middle, right? So now we line up in the middle of our cell. We're going to go into our third phase, which is A for anaphase or A for apart, because now our cells, our DNA has split up. And in T for telophase, we are going to have two new cells that go back to that interphase stage that we originally started with, right? Okay. All right. So you guys learned the hand dance. Yay, we did it. Okay, but I'm gonna flip back to my notes, because we're gonna go back from the hands to the notes. Okay, all right. So that now that we're gotten there, why do we even need the cell cycle? Oh, miss, why? Okay, well, there's two really important reasons why we need the cell cycle. So first of all, we're going to need this for organisms to grow, right? You are not the same exact size as you were when you were a toddler, when you were 5 years old, okay? Where did the rest of you come from? Well, your cells had to divide and grow and divide and grow and divide and grow, and you get the idea, right? So in order for you to grow, your cells have to replicate. They have to go through the cell cycle. The other thing that we need this for is for healing and wound repair. Because remember, if I go up and I scratch someone, right, they're going to have some skin cells taken away from them. So in order for me to replace those skin cells, which was basically healing or wound repair, I am going to have to create cells to take up the place of those that got lost in that whole scenario, right? Okay. So if you guys need to, this would be a great time to pause the video. Alrighty, guys. That's pretty much all I have for you. I'm going to give you guys a good full view here towards the end, so that if you need to, you can pause it and get whatever it is that you missed. I'm going to flip my camera so I can say bye. This is all I have for you guys. I'm sure Miss Future Reyes has something awesome and amazing and wonderful to say that I'm sure you guys should totally listen to, even though you guys are probably giggling right now, like I know you are. But anyways, I'll try not to be hurt. I'll try not to have my feelings hurt, but I don't know. We'll see. Okay, I have thick skin. We'll find out. Okay, anyways, that's all I have for you. Okay, bye.